It wasn't a mercy, my husband Walter whispered, his voice cracking in the dim light of our living room. It was for the money. He was talking about our daughter Diane, our eldest daughter, who died 25 years ago. My world, which had been balanced on a lie for a quarter century, shattered in that moment. I thought I was grieving a tragedy. I was living on the proceeds of acrimony. And the killer, my other daughter, Megan, was now coming for me. Before I tell you how I survived the trap she set, please subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I need to know your opinion on this. What would you do if the people you trusted most were monsters? My name is Grace, and I am 76 years old. Until 3 days ago, I thought I understood my life. I thought I understood my family. I was wrong about everything. It started on a Sunday morning, like so many others. I was standing in front of my eldest daughter's photograph. Diane's face, frozen at 22, smiled at me from the silver frame. Her eyes were bright, despite the pain I knew she'd been in. Gone 25 years, but the guilt still felt like yesterday. I was a head nurse for 40 years. I saved strangers in emergency rooms, in ICU beds, in hallways when there was no time to move them. But I couldn't save her. My own daughter. The front door opened without a knock. My other daughter, Megan, letting herself in with her key. She didn't hug me. Not anymore. That had stopped years ago, though I couldn't remember exactly when. She glanced at Diane's photograph, her expression carefully neutral. Still staring at that, Mom? Her voice had an edge. It's not healthy. Dwelling on the past like this at your age. Her voice was always sharp, always clinical, always the doctor, never the daughter. I miss her, I said simply. Of course you do, Megan replied, setting her purse on the table. But you did everything you could for her. She paused, and something flickered across her face. Maybe even too much. The words felt wrong, like she waist-twisting something, twisting the knife of my own guilt. Speaking of health, she continued, her tone shifting to professional concern. This house. It's too much for you and Dad. The stairs, the maintenance, the taxes alone. She sat down across from me, her posture perfect, her hands folded. As your doctor, and as your daughter, I think you should consider letting me manage your assets. A power of attorney. Before you can't make these decisions yourself, I looked at her. Really looked at her. When had she become this person? This woman who spoke to her own mother like she was a patient to be managed? I'm not incompetent, Megan, I said quietly. Not yet, she replied. But prevention is always better than crisis management. She smiled, but it didn't reach hear eyes. Let me tell you who I was before all this. For 40 years, I was Grace Mitchell, head nurse at County General. I ran a tight ship. I could start an IV in a moving ambulance. I could spot sepsis before the labs came back. I could calm a terrified patient with nothing but my voice and my hands. I saved lives. But I couldn't save my own daughter. Diane was born with a body that wouldn't obey her. A rare connective tissue disorder that meant every movement was pain. Her joints would dislocate from simple tasks. Her skin would bruise from the gentlest touch. But her mind, God, her mind was brilliant. She wanted to be a writer. She filled notebooks with stories, even when holding a pen made her fingers swell. I remember her at 16, sitting at our kitchen table. Her wrist was wrapped in a brace, but she was typing with her other hand. What are you working on? I'd asked. A story about a girl who can fly, she'd said, smiling through the pain. Because if I can't walk without hurting, at least I can imagine flying. My heart had broken and swelled at the same time. She died at 22. Walter, my husband, was a general practitioner. He'd signed the death certificate himself. A sudden cardiac event, he'd said, his voice hollow. Her heart just gave out. A tragic complication of her condition. I, the head nurse who'd seen 1,000 deaths, who could spot the signs, who knew better. I blamed myself. I thought I'd missed something. Some vital sign, some symptom, some warning. My guilt became a shadow I lived with every single day. I visited her photograph every morning. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you," I'd whisper, my heart aching with a pain that never dulled. Her other daughter, Megan, was different from Diane in every way. She was healthy, athletic, brilliant in the cold, analytical way that makes for good doctors. She'd gone to medical school, following in her father's footsteps. Now she ran the local clinic, successful and respected. She visited us every Sunday, a ritual of what she called filial duty. But my training never left me. I'm not just a grieving mother. I'm an observer. I notice things that others miss. Over the past few months, I'd started noticing things about Megan. The way her hands trembled when she thought no one was looking. The way her phone buzzed constantly with calls she'd silence. Her face tight with anger. The way she'd started talking about money, about assets, about our house. "This place must be worth at least $800,000 now," she'd said last month. "With the market the way it is, not your home or the house you love. Just a number." I still volunteer, you see. Even at 76, I can't quite let go of nursing. I help a young nurse named Sarah at the local visiting nurse station, reviewing charts, double-checking medications, mentoring, a way to keep my mind sharp, to feel useful. Last week, I was reviewing patient charts when I saw a name I recognized. Mrs. Chin, one of our elderly patients. The prescription attached was for opioid pain medication. The dosage made my blood run cold. It was high, dangerously high. The kind of dosage you give someone at the very end, when comfort is all that's left. But Mrs. Chin wasn't dying. She had arthritis, yes, but she was stable, active. This dosage could kill her. My hands shook as I checked the signature on the prescription. Dr. Megan Hayes. My daughter. "Sarah," I called out, my voice unsteady. "This prescription, has it been filled?" Sarah checked her computer. "Not yet. Why?" "Don't fill it," I said. "There's an error." I'll speak to the prescribing physician." I went home with copies of that chart, and I started looking at other files, other patients under Megan's care. A pattern emerged. Elderly patients, high-dose opioids. Always just under the threshold that would trigger an automatic review, but together, seen by someone who knew what to look for. It was a pattern of something terrible. That night, Megan came to our house. She was in the kitchen on her phone, and she didn't know I was in the hallway. Her voice was low, venomous, desperate. "I don't care about the risk," she hissed into the phone. "I need the money. My investments went bad." "The crypto thing was supposed to be safe. You said it was safe." "Just get me another $50,000. I don't care how." She was quiet for a moment, listening. "No, I can't ask my parents. They've already given me everything. Everything they had. There's nothing left except the house. And they're sitting on it like it's some kind of shrine." She hung up and turned around, saw me standing there. For just a second, her mask slipped. I saw rage, pure, cold rage. Then she smoothed it over with a smile. "Mom, you shouldn't eavesdrop. It's not polite." "Megan," I said, my voice shaking with something I couldn't name yet. "What's going on? What investments? What money?" "You don't need to worry about my finances," she said, her voice tight. "I'm handling it." "We paid off your medical school loans," I said, "with Diane's life insurance money. All $300,000. What more could you possibly need?" Her face changed. The mask of the caring, professional daughter melted away completely. What was underneath was cold and hard and ugly. "That pittance?" she sneered. "That barely covered the interest on my loans. Do you have any idea what it costs to establish a practice? To maintain the lifestyle expected of a doctor? Besides, she said, her voice dropping to something cruel, if I hadn't made the hard call with Diane, you wouldn't have had that money at all. The room tilted. What hard call? I whispered. Walter appeared in the doorway. He must have heard her voice. He stood there, his face white, his hands shaking. Megan, he said, that's enough. Enough, she laughed. It's never enough, Dad. That's the problem. It's never been enough. She grabbed her purse and walked out. The door slammed behind her. The house was silent that night. Not the comfortable silence of a long marriage, but a screaming, suffocating silence. Walter sat in his armchair, staring at nothing. He looked like a shell of the man I'd married 50 years ago. I sat across from him, my hands folded in my lap. Diane's photograph was between us on the side table. The glass was cracked where Megan had slammed the door so hard the frame had fallen. Finally, I couldn't bear it anymore. What did she mean, Walter? What hard call? He didn't answer for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was so quiet I almost didn't hear him. She was a medical student, he said. 3rd year. She came to me with a proposal. About Diane. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. What kind of proposal? Diane's pain was getting worse, he said, his eyes still fixed on nothing. The medications weren't working anymore. She was in agony every day. You saw it. We both saw it, Megan said. She said it would be a mercy. His voice broke on that word. Mercy. She said Diane was suffering, that it would never get better, that we were prolonging her agony because we couldn't let go. And she said the life insurance policy, the one we'd taken out when Deanna was diagnosed. She said it could help the family, help her finish medical school without debt, help us retire comfortably. I couldn't breathe. What did you do, Walter? He finally looked at me. His eyes were hollow, dead. She gave me the medication, afentanil patch. She told me the dosage, told me how to apply it, told me it would look like cardiac arrest, a complication of her condition. No one would question it. His hands were shaking violently now. I held Diane's hand, he sobbed. I sat with her. She was sleeping. She didn't know. I applied the patch. I stayed with her until he couldn't finish. And then I told you her heart had given out. I signed the death certificate, and I collected the insurance money. The room was spinning. I gripped the arms of my chair, my knuckles white. You murdered our daughter, I whispered. For money. It wasn't supposed to be like that, Walter said desperately. Megan said it was mercy, that we were ending her suffering, that it was what any loving parent would do. She called Diane a liability, Grace. Our daughter called her sister a liability. And God help me, I believed her. I stood up. My legs were shaking, but I stood up. The house, I said, my voice mechanical. This house. We bought it with that money. The insurance money. Yes, the cabin at the lake. The one where I go to mourn Diane. Yes. Megan's medical school tuition. Her practice. Everything. Yes. Everything. Every comfort we'd had for the past 25 years. Every asset we owned. Built on the murder of our daughter. And Megan, the architect of it all, now wanted more. The next morning, Megan called. Her voice was sickeningly cheerful, as if last night's confrontation had never happened. I think we all need to talk, she said. As a family. Clear the air, you know. I'm taking you both to the cabin for the weekend. Just the 3 of us. No distractions. We can work this out. The cabin. The words hit me like a physical blow. We bought that cabin on the lake with Diane's insurance money. It was supposed to be a place of peace, of healing. I'd gone there dozens of times over the years to mourn. But it wasn't a memorial. It was a monument to murder. And now Megan wanted to take us there. The cabin, I said flatly. Yes, it'll be perfect. Peaceful. Just family. I looked at Walter. He was sitting at the kitchen table, his face gray. We'll be there Friday night, Megan continued. I'll bring everything we need. You just bring yourselves. She hung up before I could respond. I sat down across from Walter. That's not a family meeting, I said. That's a crime scene. The place we bought with blood money. A place we return to again and again, pretending it's about grief. I thought of Diane's face, her hand in mine during those last days, how she'd smiled at me even through the pain. I'm sorry, baby, I whispered. I'm so sorry. What are we going to do? Walter asked. I won't go, I said. I can't face her there, not there. Then I'll go alone, Walter said, his voice hollow and defeated. I helped create that monster. I have to be the one to face her. I looked at my husband. This man I'd loved for 50 years. This man who'd murdered our daughter. This man who'd lived with that guilt for 25 years and never told me. He was a killer. And he was also a victim. If I let him go alone, she would finish him. I was certain of that now. No, I said, my voice hardening with decision. We go together. But we don't go as parents. We go as witnesses. Before we left for the cabin, I had preparations to make. I drove to the clinic where I volunteered. Sarah was there, restocking supplies. Grace, I didn't expect you today. I handed her a manila envelope. Sarah, I need you to do something for me. If you don't hear from me by Monday morning, 9 a.m. exactly, I need you to take this to the police. She took the envelope, her face concerned. Grace, what's going on? What is this? Evidence, I said. Evidence of prescription fraud. Evidence of my daughter's illegal practices. I met her eyes. I'm going away for the weekend with her. If something happens to me... If something happens? Sarah's voice rose. Grace, if you think you're in danger... Just promise me, I interrupted. 9 a.m. Monday. Not before, not after. Can you do that? She nodded slowly. I promise. But Grace, please be careful. I was a head nurse for 40 years, I said. I've survived things that would terrify most people. I'll be fine. I wasn't sure I believed it, but I said it anyway. At home, Walter was at his desk. He opened a drawer and pulled out something small. An old IC voice recorder. The kind doctors used to use for notes before everything went digital. If she's going to talk, he said, his voice quiet but determined. If she's going to confess, I want the world to hear it. He slipped it into his jacket pocket. Walter, I said, if this goes wrong... It won't, he said. But his eyes said he didn't believe it either. The drive to the cabin took 3 hours. A storm was rolling in from the coast, dark clouds building on the horizon. Just as Megan had planned, I realized. She checked the weather forecast. She'd chosen this weekend, deliberately. We barely spoke during the drive. What was there to say? By the time we arrived, the wind was picking up. The lake was a churning mass of gray water. The trees bent and swayed. The cabin stood at the edge of the water, isolated. The nearest neighbor was 2 miles away. I tried my cell phone. No signal. The storm must have knocked out the tower. Phone line's dead too, Walter said, checking the landline inside. We were completely cut off. Megan's car was already there. She came out onto the porch as we pulled up, smiling. You made it! Perfect timing. Dinner's almost ready. She looked happy, relaxed, thriving, like she was exactly where she wanted to be. We went inside. The cabin smelled like pot roast and bread. Homey, comfortable. A terrible mockery of family. Sit, sit, Megan said, gesturing to the table. I made Dad's favorite. We sat, the 3 of us, at the table, like a normal family. Like we weren't sitting in a house bought with murder money. Like one of us wasn't planning something terrible. Megan served the food, chattering about nothing. The clinic, the weather, some patients he'd helped, all performance, all lies. I could barely eat. Every bite felt like betrayal. Betrayal of Diane, whose money had bought this place. After dinner, Megan stood up. "Dad," she said, her voice full of fake concern. "You look stressed. Did you take your heart medication today?" Walter hesitated. I'm not sure. "I brought extras, just in case," Megan said. She walked to her medical bag and pulled out a small pill bottle. She shook out a single tablet into her palm. White, small, unscored. She brought it over with a glass of water. "Here, Dad, take this now. I don't want you having an episode out here." I looked at the pill. 40 years of nursing experiences creamed at me. That wasn't his atorvastatin for cholesterol. That wasn't his metoprolol for blood pressure. The size was wrong. The shape was wrong. I knew his medications by heart. I'd been managing them for years. This was something else. Something that would stop a heart. This wasn't healthcare. This was execution. Walter looked at me, his eyes asking one last question. "Can you finish this? Can you be strong enough?" I gave the smallest nod. "Yes." "Thank you, sweetheart," Walter said to Megan. His voice was steady. He put the pill in his mouth. He drank the water, and he pretended to swallow. I saw him palm it, subtle and quick. He was a doctor, too. He knew how to fake it. Then he sat back in his chair, waited about 30 seconds. "Grace," he whispered. "Grace, I don't feel..." He clutched his chest. His eyes rolled back. He slumped forward, then slid from his chair onto the floor. The crash was loud in the small cabin. "Walter!" I screamed, the performance of my life. I dropped to my knees beside him. "Oh, God! Megan, call 911! He's in cardiac arrest! We need help!" Megan didn't move. She stood by the dead phone, and she smiled. Actually smiled. "No signal, Mom," she said, her voice light. "Remember?" The storm knocked everything out. She walked closer, looking down at Walter's still form, just like 25 years ago with Diane. Isolated. No help coming. No one to save them. She knelt down beside me. "He's free now, Mom. You both will be, just like Diane. Free from suffering." "You monster," I whispered, still playing my part. "You killed him." "Monster?" Megan stood up, her voice rising. "Monster? I saved this family." The mask was finally, completely off. "Diane was a liability," she shrieked. "A financial black hole that would have drained us forever. Do you have any idea how much her care was costing? How much it would have cost as she got worse?" She was pacing now, her words sporing out. "I did the dirty work you and Dad were too weak to do. I made the hard choice. I saved us. And that insurance money? That was my payment. My reward for fixing our lives. For making it possible for you to retire. For making it possible for me to become a doctor." She gestured around the cabin. "This place? This house back home? All of it bought with that money. My money! Money I earned by doing what had to be done." She stopped pacing and looked down at Walter's body. "And you two? You've just been sitting on my assets for 25 years. Living in my house? Going to my cabin. While I've been drowning in debt, in bad investments. While my practice has been struggling. While I've had to resort to creative solutions to make ends meet." Her voice dropped. "It's only fair that I get what's mine. What was always supposed to be mine." I was still kneeling by Walter, my hand hidden in my pocket. My fingers closed around cold plastic. The emergency whistle I carried for my volunteer work. The one I used when I needed help in the field. Let her talk, I thought. Let her bury herself. Let her confess it all. "And Walter?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Dad was a loose end," Megan said, her voice matter-of-fact now. "He was feeling guilty. I could see it. Guilty people talk. Guilty people confess. I couldn't risk that. She reached into her medical bag and pulled out a syringe. And you, Mom. You're a loose end, too. You're starting to ask questions, to look at my prescriptions, to notice things. She walked toward me, the syringe in her hand. But don't worry. It'll be peaceful. A heart attack, just like Dad. Just like Diane. The family curse. Now. I stood up, the whistle in my hand. You made one mistake, I said, my voice clear and cold. Just one. Megan stopped. What? You underestimated your mother. I blew the whistle. The sound was piercing, unnatural. A shriek that filled the small cabin. Megan stumbled back, surprised, her hands going to her ears. In that second, Walter's hand shot out from where he lay on the floor. He wasn't grabbing Megan. He was reaching into his jacket. The voice recorder. He pulled it out and tossed it to me. I got it all, Grace, he shouted. Every word. I caught it, my hand closing around the small device. Megan's face transformed. Shock. Rage. Understanding. You were faking? She lunged, not at Walter, but at me. At the evidence. At the confession she'd just made. But I was already moving. Out the door, into the storm. The wind hit me like a wall. Rain was starting to fall, cold and hard. I ran. I'm 76 years old, but I ran like I was 20, down the path toward the road. The whistle still shrieking in my hand. Behind me, I heard Megan scream, heard her footsteps on the porch. Mom! Mom, give it back! You don't understand. I can explain. I didn't stop. I ran into the darkness, into the storm, the recorder clutched in my hand like a lifeline, like proof, like justice, like Diane's voice, finally heard. I don't know how long I ran. My chest was burning. My legs were shaking. But I didn't stop until I saw lights. A car, coming up the road. I stumbled into the middle of the road, waving my arms. The car stopped. The door opened. It was Sarah. Grace! Oh my God, what happened? Behind her, getting out of a police cruiser, were two officers. You said 9 a.m. Monday? I gasped. It's only Friday night. How did you... I didn't trust it, Sarah said. I didn't trust that timeline. So I called the police as soon as you left. I gave them the prescriptions, and we came to find you. I could have kissed her. The police went into the cabin. I sat in Sarah's car, wrapped in a blanket, shaking. Not from cold, from reaction. From the adrenaline draining away. They brought Megan out in handcuffs 10 minutes later. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't crying. She was just silent, her face blank. They brought Walter out separately. He was handcuffed too. He saw me through the car window. Our eyes met. And he mouthed two words. I'm sorry. At the police station, I handed over the recorder. They played it back while I sat in a small room. Megan's voice, clear and damning. I did the dirty work you were too weak to do. That insurance money was my payment. Diane was a liability. I made the hard choice. Every word, a confession. Every word, a nail in her own coffin. Walter confessed too. Everything. His part in Diane's death 25 years ago. How Megan had convinced him it was mercy. How he'd applied the fentanyl patch. How he'd signed the false death center. How he'd collected the insurance money. He confessed it all. Not to save himself. It was far too late for that. But to make sure the truth was finally, completely known. To protect me from any suspicion. To do, finally, one right thing. For Diane, the trial was 6 months later. I sat in the courtroom every single day. I watched my daughter, the doctor, the one I'd been so proud of. I watched her sit emotionless as the prosecution laid out her crimes. Not just Diane's murder, which she'd orchestrated at 24 years old, but the other crimes, the ones I'd discovered. Illegal opioid prescriptions, selling medications to addicts, fraud, theft. A pattern of behaviors spanning years. She'd been desperate for money for so long, and she'd been willing to do anything to get it. Even kill her own sister. Even try to kill her own parents. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Life in prison, no possibility of parole. Walter's trial was separate. He pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter, to falsifying a death certificate, to insurance fraud. He was sentenced to 15 years. He'll die in prison, we both know that. He's 78 years old, and his health is failing. But he stood up in that courtroom, and he told the truth. He read a statement, his voice shaking. I killed my daughter because I was weak. Because I believed lies that sounded like mercy. Because I wanted to believe there was an easy answer. There wasn't. There never is. Diane deserved better. She deserved to live. She deserved parents who were strong enough to bear her pain with her. I wasn't strong enough. And I will pay for that for the rest of my life. He looked at me then. Grace, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. After both trials were over, I did what I had to do. I sold the house. The one we'd bought with blood money. I sold the cabin. The monument to murder. Every single asset we owned, everything bought with Diane's life insurance. I liquidated it all, and I gave every cent to a foundation. The Diane Mitchell Foundation for Young People with Chronic Illness. It funds medical care, pain management, counseling. It helps families who are struggling. It gives them options that aren't murder. All $1.2 million. Every penny of blood money, washed clean by doing actual good. In Diane's name. In her memory. The real memorial she deserved. I live in a small apartment now. 1 bedroom, modest, paid for by my pension. I volunteer at the foundation 3 days a week. I help families navigate the medical system. I help them find resources, find hope. I tell them about my daughter. Not about how she died, not yet, but about who she was, about her stories, her dreams, her strength, about how she wanted to fly. I keep 1 photograph of Diane in my apartment, just 1. Her at 16, smiling, her notebook in her lap. I talk to her sometimes. I did it, baby, I tell her. I finally did it. I got justice for you. I made sure they paid. I'm sorry it took 25 years. I'm sorry I didn't know. But I know now. And I've done everything I can to make it right. I don't keep any pictures of Megan. I don't visit her in prison. She's written me letters. I haven't opened them. Some betrayals are too deep. Some crimes are too terrible. She was my daughter. But she was also a monster. And I choose to remember only that I had 2 daughters. One who was murdered. One who was a murderer. The good one is gone. The other is dead to me. Walter writes me too. Every week, a letter from prison. Always the same words. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I haven't responded. I don't know if I ever will. Can I forgive him? He was manipulated by Megan, yes. He was weak and desperate and willing to believe lies. But he still made the choice. He still held our daughter's hand and killed her. And he lived with that lie for 25 years. In the end, he tried to make it right. He confessed. He faced justice. He helped me trap Megan, risking his own life. Does that earn forgiveness? I don't know. Some days I think yes. He was a victim too, in his way. He spent 25 years in his own prison of guilt. Some days I think, no, Diane is still dead. 25 years of her life were still stolen. No amount of confession brings her back. Most days, I don't think about it at all. I think about the families I'm helping. The young people who get to live because of Diane's foundation. The parents who don't have to make impossible choices. That's what matters now. Not forgiveness or revenge. Just making sure Diane's death, horrible as it was, means something. I'm 76 years old. I'm living on a pension in a small apartment. I've lost my husband, my daughter, my home, everything. But I'm free. Free from the guilt that wasn't mine to carry. Free from the lie I was living. Free from the blood money. For the first time in 25 years, I can look at Diane's photograph without feeling crushing shame. Now I feel grief. Pure grief. The kind you're supposed to feel. Not the poisoned grief of believing it failed her, but the clean grief of knowing I loved her, and that she was stolen from me, and that I finally got justice. So let me ask you this. What would you have done if you discovered that your child had murdered your other child? If you discovered your spouse had helped? If you'd been living on the proceeds of that crime for 25 years? Would you have gone to the police immediately? Or would you have done what I did? Gathering evidence, setting a trap. And here's the harder question. Walter was manipulated by Megan. He was weak, but he wasn't evil. In the end, he helped me stop her. He confessed. He took responsibility. He'll die in prison for what he did. Could you forgive him? Should I forgive him? Some people have told me I should, that he was a victim too, that he's paid enough, that forgiveness is healing. Others have told me I shouldn't, that he's a murderer, that 25 years of lies can't be washed away, that some things are unforgivable. I don't know which side is right. Maybe both, maybe neither. What I do know is this. Evil isn't always obvious. Sometimes it comes wrapped in concern, in practicality, in mercy. Sometimes it wears the face of your own child, and sometimes the people you trust most are capable of the worst things imaginable. But here's what else I know. The truth always matters. Justice always matters, even if it takes 25 years. Even if it costs you everything. Even if it means destroying your own family to get it. Diane deserved the truth. She deserved justice. And I made sure she got both. If this story resonates with you, if it makes you think about trust and betrayal, about family and justice and the terrible choices we sometimes face, then please share this story. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Not for me, but for everyone who's living with a terrible secret. For everyone who's been betrayed by the people they trusted most. For everyone who's wondering if it's too late for truth, too late for justice. It's never too late. The truth always matters. And justice, even delayed, is still justice. Thank you for listening to Diane's story. Thank you for bearing witness to her life, and to her death, and to her vindication. And remember, if someone you love is suffering, if you're facing impossible choices, there are always options. There are always resources. There's always another way. The easy answer is almost never the right one. And mercy that comes with a price tag isn't mercy at all. It's murder. Thank you.